everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome to another adventure in history. And I hope that the world is nice to you today. And I hope that you are having the most wonderful of whatever it is for you today. Hey, Nix, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. I really don't know what to say. I'm just I don't know. Today has been a weird day. It's like a very long and very weird day. So, yeah. But not necessarily a bad day, but like definitely one that I don't want to necessarily repeat. I've had a lot of work to do. The grading of papers is catching up with me. I have more students this semester than I've ever had at any point in me teaching. And I have basically double the amount of students that I had last semester. And it's expressing itself in the fact that it's doing stuff like taking me twice as long to grade everything. So... Oh, Vipers, that sucks. Holy crap, man. That's really sucky. I don't even know how to properly respond to that. Do you have options? I don't know what the housing situation looks like where you're located, and if relocating is going to be something that is... I mean, moving is never easy or preferable, but I hope that there is at least alleviation and that the housing market is really great and there's lots of places to go to that are really cheap and also good and in good neighborhoods. Man, that really sucks, man. I'm really sorry to hear that. Crap, man. I could belabor the point and continue to feel like mopey, but I don't know what else I could say. You've got until the 22nd of November. Well, that's no good. I don't like that at all. I guess this might be your excuse to buy a castle. Right? Oh! It's, hits just keep on coming, huh? I don't know how specific Vipers wants to be, but the northern part of Ireland. Okay, well, there we go. I didn't want to like throw you out there, but you are welcome to throw yourself out there. So let me say hey to everybody. Hey, Atuna, good to see you, my friend. Thank you for the Shane screaming into the void. Kyle, how's it going? Good to see you. How was work last night? Anytime you do like afternoon or night shoots, that's it's always interesting. Like, what are you doing at night? So, yeah. So we're going to try to be positive energy. And, yeah. Okay. So welcome to the stream. What's up, Lumpy? Good to see you. We shot for half a day, then a person tested COVID positive, so we all went home. Well, I hope you at least got paid for the whole day, even if they sent you home. Ha ha ha. I know they probably didn't. Lumpy, I hope you're having a good day. I hope that the super tired. Yeah. Okay, well, that's good. Full day of pay. That's good. Real life is extra good. Lumpy, I like hearing extra good. Good job. Merovingians, those people suck, but commission some great art. Yes, and make a cameo appearance in the Matrix, right? You thought I was giving them a half rate since it was a charity thing? Huh. There we go. Lumpy, I am also super tired from real life. I would say that real life is middling to fair. But I'm appreciative of the fact that it is middling to fair. That isn't me being like a negative Nancy. It could be way worse. It's actually better than it has been. It's moving in the right direction for at least the next couple of days. There's just way too much work with 270 students trying to grade everything. It's a lot. So it's a lot. But I'm doing okay. I'm managing. I still have stream stuff to get, through and done, and I'm still able to produce stream material, which is something that I honestly started worrying about at the beginning of the week. Like last week, I was like, crap, am I going to even be able to do viewer request episodes? I was worried that I was going to have to completely cut them out. And Tuesday, when some of the things were coming up in viewer request, all I could think of is, crap, that's going to take a lot of time to research. So it's taking a toll, but I'm still trying to keep in good spirits. I still have a job. I can still pay my bills. It could be a lot worse. And I'm going to try to... Clovis, could you be frank? Everyone, yes? Good old Clovis. That guy. We're going to be talking about some of his grandkids today. Yeah, so we're talking about the Merovingians. Now, who are these people? If you've been around the stream, you'll have seen a couple of streams now where we're talking about the Merovingians. Very basically, they are the descendants of Clovis, the guy that Vipers referenced here. They're named Merovingians after this old guy who was in Clovis's family. His name was Merovech. And they're effectively the Frankish barbarians that take over the region of Central Europe when the Western Roman Empire falls apart. All of this fun stuff. If we want to look at a map of where we stand at the beginning, there we go. I thought they were one of the Ninja Turtles. No, that's Michelangelo. Now that's close to Merovingian, but not quite. These are the ones that probably hired some of the ancestors, not the ancestors, the ancestors of Michelangelo to go do stuff in France at the time. But you can see here, they control a pretty big territory. This is interesting here, and I'll point out a few of these things for reasons. So, Milo with one L, yeah. Venus de Milo was the fourth turtle, if you count the live-action TV show. Ah, yes, Venus, that's fair. There's another, a newer female turtle, and I can't remember what her name is, because I'll be honest and say that, unfortunately, I've stopped reading Ninja Turtles comics because the comics shop that I used to get all of my comics from closed down, and I'm really behind. Jenica, yes. Okay, I knew that name, but then I couldn't summon it from my brain. I haven't read single-issue comics in almost a year at this point. The only single-issue comic that I've even bought in the last year or so uh, was David Peterson's Owl Hen Caregiver one-shot. The closest comics shop to me that sells single issues that I would consider buying from is in, it's about an hour and a half away in New Orleans. So it's hard to justify going an hour and a half away just to buy them. Now, they said that they would ship to me, but I don't know how much they would charge. And anyway, we're getting way off topic. I guess I could buy the digital versions, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to encourage the run towards digital stuff, but I guess that would be giving them money. Anyway, I'm once again diverting my attention from where it needs to be. Okay, let's look at a few regions here. All right, we've got the larger sort of dark umber here that is the Merovingian kingdom. But let us note that there are 4 chunks. There's Austrasia, there's Neustria, there's Aquitaine, and there's Burgundy. Right? And the reason that I point out these particular regions is because the Merovingian kingdom breaks up and gets back together like David Putty and Elaine Bennis. They might be broken up for 5 minutes and then they're all back united again, or they might be broken up for like 10 years or they're reunited again. Because these little kingdoms are all going to be inheritable, and there's this weird thing in Merovingian history that comes from larger Frankish history that's called Salic law. They were a particular type of Franks called Salian Franks, and the Salic Franks are going to have this particular interesting tradition of passing down something to all of your kids. So if you are the king of, say, all of the Franks and you have 2 kids, well, you're going to chunk up this territory and put one of them on the throne over here and one of them on the throne over here. Or usually the way that it's broken up is Aquitaine and Burgundy sometimes end up going together, and Neustria and Austrasia go together sometimes, but other times it's like this, where Neustria and Aquitaine are together and Austrasia and Burgundy are together. Or sometimes we've got 4 different people and they're all duking it out and they all have 1 kingdom each. It's a giant mess, basically, is what I'm trying to get at. Your weekend will be spent in Montreal, cuddling and eating. If you do that at the same time, you might get crumbs in the bed or on the couch. But if it's not your couch, it doesn't really matter. And if you're not planning, never mind, I won't go into any of that stuff. But moving along. So, the Merovingians have a problem keeping their kingdom together. It falls apart like a leper on a treadmill, right? It just doesn't hold itself together very well at all. And you get a kingdom, and you get a kingdom, right? It's like Oprah at the end of an episode. Everybody gets a kingdom, right? So, when we pick up our story, coming out of the 6th century, the kingdom of the Franks is in shambles and pieces. Dang, man, that was a dark analogy. Which one was that? Oh, the leper on a treadmill one? Yeah, that's a pretty dark one. But it's a fair analogy, right? Yeah. So, at the moment, we have all of these kingdoms, and they're all kind of fighting over themselves. And to top it off, another problem that the Merovingians find themselves in quite a bit is incestuous relationships. Because if dad left, I don't know, 3 brothers in charge of 3 different parts of the kingdom, and you go kill your brother, and your brother only had daughters, one way to make sure that you can claim the right to that part of the kingdom is to marry your niece, which is something that happens. Also, very frequent instances of marrying your sisters-in-law. That's just perfectly fine. They're not even really related to you. There's a lot of like weird family tree not turning into a tree, but more like a family hedge kind of thing going on with the Merovingians. They also have some pretty vicious feuds between different family lines and who's married to whom and which queen came from which other kingdom. And if these two queens came from kingdoms that were at odds with each other, now they're going to turn their husbands against each other. And it's a weird situation. A family shrubbery, right? It's really weird to glance at my recommended channels and see Bernie Sanders right next to Amaranth. I can only hope he's not licking an ear microphone. That's, yeah, that's interesting. Are they related to the Habsburgs? No, not directly. The Habsburgs aren't going to show up until well after the Merovingians are excommunicated and all die out. You're going to start seeing Habsburgs around... Well, I guess it depends on when you want to start counting Habsburgs. Mostly in the 1200s, you start seeing the beginnings of the Habsburgs. They don't really start getting really big until the Ottomans start wrecking most of Europe, and they're going to be around to gobble up the little pieces. That's kind of how they start their big push on stuff. And then, of course, they end up just getting involved in everything. Right. How about the Ptolemies? They're not related to the Ptolemies either. I'm not bad. I'm just drawn this way. Interesting analogies. Okay, so France is in a mess, and there's a big fight going on. And basically, there's a king named Lothar who is the king of Neustria, and he's going to start basically weeding out his opponents. And his opponents are his cousins and his family, right? So, like, even his brothers. He's going to end up killing a whole ton of his cousins. So these would be, you know, like the kids of his brothers, so his nieces and nephews. He's going to end up killing his sister-in-law, who is the famous Brunhilde. So if you've ever heard of Brunhilde, it was his sister-in-law. He's actually going to... He didn't really care for Brunhilde very much at all. Lothar's mother was this other queen named Fredegund, and Fredegund and Brunhilde had a big beef with each other. So when he finally gets his hands on Brunhilde, he puts her on trial, and he has her convicted of a whole slew of crimes, and then kills her by dragging her behind a horse. And then he has her dead body drawn and quartered and displayed in public. So, pretty vicious guy, this Lothar dude. I guess I should show you who we're talking about here. So, this is Lothar. Yes, Game of Thrones source material. Exactly. Right? So this is Lothar. He's... I mean, let me just be honest. The Merovingian coins are not the... Draw me like you're Lothar. Anyway, the Merovingian coins are not particularly very well representative of the likenesses. If anything, this is the beginning of French interpretism, or interpretive art, maybe. I don't know, whatever that is. Anyway, this guy's Lothar II. So, Lothar II of Neustria kills a lot of his own family. He's going to kill his sister-in-law. He's going to live longer than some of his other brothers. And by 613, he's going to become king of all Franks. So he unites all of the kingdoms of the Franks into one larger Frankish kingdom. And this is the first time it had been united for quite some time, several decades, because the big civil war starts all the way back in 584. If you were with us last time we talked about the Franks, you'll know that we left everybody in the middle of a giant civil war, and Lothar is the one that's going to be able to outlast everybody else. I didn't vote for him. They draw me like one of your Frenchmen in World War II. That's true. That's true. You do not vote for king. How'd you become king then? Anyway, so when Lothar takes over, it had been at this point about 30 years since France had been united, and he's going to try to make it harder for France to fall back apart. And to do this, he's actually going to draw on some interesting allies. And one of those allies is going to be the Catholic Church. Now, you might go, well, that actually sounds like a pretty good ally if you're a European noble, because the church, is a big deal. The Merovingians didn't have the best relationship with the church. See, this whole incest thing that they were doing was not good with the church. Also, they were active polygamists. Lothar had multiple wives at the same time. And not like wife and concubine, but like actual wives. And this was very common in the Merovingian world. And this was also frowned upon by the church. And given particular moments in Merovingian history, they had even targeted certain bishops that were speaking out against them. They had threatened to tax the church. They had taken church land. So the Catholic Church, the Bishop of Rome or the Pope, whatever you want to call him, was not a natural ally of the Merovingians, right? The French version of Family Matters is way different, right? I could imagine the whole marrying your own family wouldn't sit well with the Pope. This is correct. This is correct. The church was disgusted. You have to pay them before you do that sort of thing, or at least after it. Correct. The Merovingians are just the Targaryens. Without the dragons and without the lasting success. Yes. Well, I don't know. I don't know how long the Targaryen dynasty lasted in Westeros. I'm not that big of a Westeros history fan. The Merovingians are going to last into the 700s, though, in a way. I don't know. They probably... I don't know. Anyway. Maybe 300 years. Yeah, so maybe the Targaryens outlasted the Merovingians if we're just doing a straight comparison there. So... interesting. Oh, I've got another image of Lothar. So here's a little bit of a better likeness of Lothar, picturing him like a good Roman. Because another thing that Lothar decides to do is try to amp up this idea that he's restoring order. Because he is the king. And he's going to bring back the good times, like the good times that used to be under Rome. Now, it's fair to note that at this point, the fall of Rome was almost 150 years prior to Lothar, so nobody alive remembered what it was like. But there's this sort of mythical idea of the glory days of Rome, right? This sort of mentally created ideology of what things should be like if things were ideal, and Lothar's like, I am going to be that guy. Is he where the term Lothario comes from? I don't think so. I'm not 100% certain, though. You could check me on that, but I don't think so. I think that's a little bit later, and I think Shakespeare might have been involved in that. But I'm not sure. Okay, so he's going to reach out to the church and says, look, okay, here's what I want to do. I want to make friends. What can I do to make things better? And the church goes, okay, look, how about you do something to pick on the Jewish people in France? We don't like Jewish people. We know you don't like Jewish people. Why don't you pick on the Jewish people? And Lothar's like, that sounds like a good middle ground. By the way, I don't condone picking on Jewish people. Lothar was just a giant jerk. So he passes this thing called the Edict of Paris, right? The Edict of Paris stated a few things, but the biggest one was that Jewish people can no longer be in public service. So if you work for the king or if you work for the government, you can't be Jewish. And this was welcomed as a pretty big deal and a pretty good thing for most of the nobility that were Frankish, because this was going to sort of make sure that there were more open jobs in the nobility positions in the ranks. And even the middle people that were like lower level nobles, that would be things like tax collectors or accountants or things like that would be in the employ of officials they couldn't be Jewish either. So this was a kind of a bonus for a lot of the people. This is also going to put the Catholic Church, the Edict of Paris this is, also puts the church in a position where it's basically able to oversee more things in the realm of the Merovingians. Specifically, they're going to be able to do stuff like oversee the teaching of some of the nobles' students, right? So these are children that are nobility. The church is going to have a little bit more of a role when it comes to teaching them the good stuff, because this is like, you're training the children to know Christianity so that when they grow up, they don't have lots of wives and sleep with their nieces, right? So this is another good thing for the church. Now, the thing that the nobles don't really like so much is that the Edict of Paris also says that you have to live in the territory where you are ruling. And this is a really interesting concept that comes up quite a bit in the ancient world, right? That this idea of I can be the Duke of so-and-so or the Baron of so-and-so or the Earl of so-and-such, but I don't have to go live there, right? I can live halfway across the continent. But the Edict of Paris says, no, if you're going to live and call yourself the title of this thing, you've got to live there too. And the nobles don't always like this, but this is actually kind of a smart move by Lothar. Because, well, there's a much more of a direct responsibility, true, but it also keeps the nobles out of the capital. And that keeps them out from under Lothar. And that gives him a little bit more breathing space, right? But I'm Duke of a pigsty. Let me catch up here. I've missed some chat. Yep, Google says it's from Don Quixote. Okay, thank you. Laissez bon temps rouler. It's not the good times roll, no. Feel everyone that can think... Yeah, everybody that thinks they can be Rome, they always mess it up. Green Herring... Oh, hey, Green Herring, good to see you. I don't think I said hello. Edict of Claudius Mark II. No, well, if we get yes in a way, I'll give you that, just with pretty dramatically different implications, of course, one of them being pagan, right? Easier to unless you rule if you live there, but I'm the Duke of a pigsty. What's up, LC? Sending the kids outside to play? Lothar needs a break. Exactly, right? You all go back to where you came from. Leave me alone. Now, this is going to give him a pretty good base of power. By the way, once again, he passes this in 614. He becomes king of all of the Franks in 613. Edict of Paris is in 614. Now, there is a position that is going to become very, very important in the Merovingian kingdom. And it's called Mayor of the Palace. So, because the Merovingian kings spent so much time out fighting, potentially their own family, they needed somebody to make sure that the country was just kind of running the right way, that the taxes were still being paid, that everybody was following the law. They needed somebody to sign all the papers and stamp all the official documents and stuff like that. And that position was usually mayor of the palace. And because mayor of the palace, they stayed in the palace. They stayed at the capital. And this is going to be something that is going to be a growing position of authority, because Lothar is going to decide in 617 that these positions should be hereditary. So he's going to make his current mayor of the palace and say that, this person's son will be able to inherit the position. Now, this is a big deal, because when you make any position hereditary, it's a lot harder to get rid of people that are jerk faces, and it's also a lot easier for them to accumulate generational wealth, right? And here's the thing. For a long time, there is a mayor of the palace in each of the 4 palaces, right? So we've got a palace in Aquitaine, a palace in Austrasia, a palace in Burgundy, and a palace in Neustria. And for most of the time, you've got one mayor handling his own little area, and then the king might be going back and forth between these places, or maybe just picks up one place and sort of sits down in residence, But while there are 4 mayors, 1 in each zone, it's a pretty powerful position, but there are still 4 of them. But if you get the joke in the title tonight, you can see where we're going to head with this, right? The Hand of the King, correct. Nixolotl is just making this more Game of Thronesy. Yes, time for you to go out to the places you will be found. So go back to where you came from. Is this region been called or have become France yet? So it's not technically called France yet. It's called the Kingdom of the Franks. And because this unified Kingdom of the Franks doesn't exist very frequently, it's not really thought of as one kingdom yet. So Lothar is basically just the king of 4 different places, and he's unified them for his reign. Boy, when you die at the palace, you really die at the palace. Say, Mel Brooks. Now, Lothar does seem to appear, at least in the historical sources, to look like he wants to be a good ruler. This idea of, let's be good. Let's be good people. He even gets down to 1 wife. He's going to say, "Look, I'm going to not do the polygamy thing. I'm just going to have 1 wife. So I'm just going to have the 1 wife." Now, the rest of those other people are still going to be mistresses, and he's still going to have kids with them, but he's only got the 1 wife. 1 wife. Right? Except to the Jewish people, correct. He's trying to be a good Christian, according to the way that he and the Pope had described this thing of being like he's going to be a good person. Good person. And he's going to try to be a good king for his neighbors, so he's going to reach out to the Visigoths, who were, his local neighbors to the west. If we go back to our map here, you can see the Kingdom of the Visigoths down here. This, of course, is in what is modern-day Spain. You also see down here the Kingdom of the Lombards. Now, we haven't talked a lot about the Lombards, mostly because their kingdom is very fractious, and it's not going to last for too much longer, so we're not necessarily going to give them too terribly much attention. But suffice to say that the Lombards were another barbarian kingdom that had taken up residence in the northern part of Italy. And Lothar's going to reach out to them and say, "Hey, we've had treaties in the past. Would you like to make a new treaty?" And they're like, "Yeah, that sounds great." So he makes friends with the Lombards more. So he does look like he's trying to be, the good king of the Franks and try to reunite everybody and treat everybody the right way and do all this stuff. So, good dude. But things get messy because the nobles don't really like some of the stuff that he's doing. Especially they don't like this "you gotta live where you rule" thing, and they really don't like the idea that he's giving so much power to this position, mayor of the palace, because a lot of the nobles had been fairly powerful in their own right, and by elevating mayor of the palace, you have sort of devalued some of their influence, right? So the nobles are going to get all up in Lothar's face, and they're going to basically tell him that we're going to rebel. We don't like you, and if you don't do what we tell you to do, we're going to rebel, and we're going to cause all sorts of trouble, and you're going to have to kill us. So Lothar has to do this really weird thing where he takes part of his kingdom and he's going to just give it to his son. So he's going to take Austrasia, which is, again, if we kind of just point to the map here, it's this region. Let me north it up. So Austrasia is this sort of northeasterly part of the kingdom, and he's going to give it to his son named Dagobert. So, Dagobert the First, who is eventually going to go on to look like this. Note kind of the carrying on of the dad theme of trying to look a little bit like a Roman here on the coin. But we can at least read these. Dagobert. Dagobert. Yay. Anyway, so this guy. And he's going to give Austrasia to his son and say, look, I'm not going to rule in Austrasia. I'll just rule these 3 parts. I won't be king of all Francia. Austrasia, by the way, was where most of the rabble-rousing nobles had come from, so this was appeasing to them to have a very, very young king on the throne, which was really ironic because they weren't going to be able to do anything against him because his dad was still alive, but it was a pacification move. So Dagobert's going to become king of Austrasia when he's very young, and Lothar also makes it known that when he dies, Dagobert will not inherit the entire kingdom. He's going to try to give some of his territory to his other son, whose name is Caribert. Not Care Bear, but Caribert. Chauderbay. Call it whatever you want to, right? So we're going to leave part of the kingdom, specifically Neustria, to Caribert, and Dagobert is going to get the other 3 parts. Now, when Lothar dies, because everybody gets old and dies, Dagobert had been on the throne for quite some time. And Caribert is like, okay, I'm going to go sit on the throne in Paris and be the king of Neustria. And his brother goes, nah, I don't like that idea. I'm going to let you do that. And Caribert's like, but Dad left it to me. And here's the thing, they were not full brothers. Dagobert was the son from the wife, and Caribert was from one of the not wives, so they were only half brothers. The thing is, though, the nobility don't like the idea of a unified king of Francia. So when Dagobert is like, I'm not going to give you anything, you're dead to me, you're not even my real brother, you're my half brother, the nobles were like, but you're not going to try to rule all of Francia by yourself, are you? And he's like, yeah, why not? And they're like, He's like, well, I mean, what do you want me to do? They're like, well, you better give some of that to your brother. He's like, I'm not giving Neustria to my brother. That's where friggin' Paris is, where all the cool stuff is at. And so he ends up giving Caribert Aquitaine. Aquitaine was sort of seen as the lesser of the territories. It's this down here area in southwestern France. It's actually a beautiful country. I would love to go hang out there and spend some time there. But it was not where the big cities were. It wasn't where a lot of the big trading cities were. It was kind of the more rural, less populated part of France. So it's kind of the, I'm going to throw you a bone to keep the nobles happy. I don't want them rebelling against me and picking you as some weird, pretender to the throne kind of thing. When siblings have to share, you give them the worst flavor gummy bears. Exactly, right? You don't give them the good ones. You give them like the yellow ones. And I'm not talking about like the good yellow ones that are sometimes pineapple. I mean like the actual lemon flavored ones, which never really taste like lemon. They just taste like yellow. You give them those, right? You don't give them the good stuff, right? Nobody gets the good stuff except for you. Now, this is where things are going to stay for a little while. And Caribert goes down to Aquitaine, and he has a son. And things are looking great, and he's trying to set up his territory and set up his world. And Dagobert just starts kind of feeling a little antsy. He's like, I don't know about this, man. This guy wasn't supposed to go down there and get married so fast, and he wasn't supposed to have a kid. I really thought he would maybe go down there and die. So what am I going to do about this? And so he goes to his mayor of the palace, and he goes to some of his close supporters, and he's like, look, what can I do to get rid of this guy? And they're like, just freaking kill him. And he's like, wait, is it that easy? Can I just go kill him? And I'm like, yeah. I mean, this is friggin' Francia. Just go kill the dude. Okay, I'm gonna. So he sends down some assassins, and they kill Caribert, and they kill Caribert's son, his nephew, Kilperic. So guess who's now king of all Francia? Dagobert. It's crazy how that works, right? Assassin, exactly. Ooh, Nick's on the assassin button. All right, so here's another Dagobert coin. I forgot that I had this one. This one is a little bit more impressionistic, perhaps. I did have a coin of Caribert, so here he is. Interesting guy. Now, what's interesting about Caribert is that when he inscribes his coin here, he decides to pick Latin. Caribertus Rex. King Caribert. Right? Because again, we're doing this I'm a Roman thing, right? That nose, though. He does have a rather pronounced schnoz. You keep saying Caribert, and I keep hearing Care Bear. I know. Caribert. Caribert. Well, I mean, I don't have to say him anymore because he's dead. Sorry, dude. You're gone. So, Dagobert left over. He's the king of all Franks now. And everybody's like, hey, king of all Franks. So, from 632 until 639, he's going to be king of all Franks. Now, you're like, well, that doesn't sound very long. And wasn't that guy pretty young already? Yeah, he was. And, like, wasn't he, supposed to be, I don't know, powerful as king of all the Franks? Yeah, he was. But it turns out that he's not. And he has a lot of ups and downs in his rule. There were a group of people that had moved into Eastern Europe, basically right up here, sort of in this region that is, well, I mean, not too far from where modern-day Ukraine is. Sort of this larger region right around here, and they were called the Avars. And they were, we've mentioned the Avars many times on stream, but to remind you, they were a steppe people. They were technically the Avar Khaganate. So they were ruled by Khans. They were a lot of the same steppe people that we've been talking about multiple times in the past. So they had sort of settled there, and they were kind of natural enemies of the Merovingians. And Dagobert's going to say, let's go fight the Avars. So he packs up and he goes over here and fights them. And he does win. And people are like, hey, maybe he's going to be okay. Maybe we didn't need to worry about this guy. And then some not so good stuff. There's a group of people that were up here, in sort of the northern Germany region. Today where maybe Germany and part of what would be Denmark and over here in what might have been Poland. If you can, I mean, you can see the borders if you know where I'm talking about. Like right over here, Poland, Germany, and Denmark, right? They're called the Wends, the Wendics. W-E-N-D. And he's like, we're going to go beat them up. And so he takes his army up there and he's going to go beat them up. And it doesn't go so great. And he's got to start calling in favors. And he's like, Lombards, your friends, come help me, please. And he has to call in the Lombards, and he has to call in another tributary group called the Alemanni. And he's like, hey, really could use some help here. And they show up basically in the nick of time to save his hide and that of his army. And he comes back home and claims the victory, but everybody kind of knows that he got his butt whipped and had to call in the cavalry to assist. It doesn't make him look very good. And because of this, the nobles are going to be like, you're doing this thing again where we don't like one king. So while you were winning, we were kind of willing to let you do it, but now that you're not winning, you're pretty much gonna have to go. And he's like, but I'm king of all the Franks. And they're like, that's what we don't like. So could you do something about that? And he gets put basically in the exact same situation that his father did, where he's going to have to take part of his kingdom, he's going to have to give it to a kid, and it's once again Austrasia, and his kid is under the name Sigebert III. Sigebert III. Well, I don't think it has that E in there. Is it Siegbert? I think it's just Sigebert. Yeah, that's right. Apologies for my spelling issue there. I'm getting German, not French. Sigebert. They sure do like their Bert names, right? Yeah, they do. They do. So Sigebert III. And this kid is going to get the throne of Austrasia at 3, right? He's not actively ruling there. The people that are running that on a daily basis are regents, specifically most of the time the mayor of the palace. And that makes the nobles rather happy because there's no strong leader there. Now, again, if anything happened, like if they had tried to challenge Sigebert, Dagobert would have shown up and beaten the junk out of them, right? So it's not like they have free reign to do whatever they want to. But they feel better having a 3-year-old on the throne. Because, you know, it's better than having a 3-year-old in the White House. So, I guess. Now, Dagobert does some interesting stuff. He's going to build the first church of Saint Denis, which is in Paris. The version that's there now, if you know what the church of Saint Denis looks like, it's not the same. It gets burned and renovated multiple times between this period of time and the modern day, so you can't go look at the modern Saint Denis and go, hey, look! But there are a lot of Merovingian kings buried there. Saint Denis is one of my bucket list churches. I would really love to go there. I would really like to get back to Paris at some point. I don't know when I would be able to, though. It's going to be probably a little while. Look at this little guy. Got a little string on my shirt, and he's dancing because I've got my fan on. Your name in ancient Merovingia. Just your name now plus Bert. So I'd be Shanabert. That actually does sound like a pretty good Merovingian name. There we go. Shanabert. I'll take it. Kylabert. It works. It works. Anyway, so we've got a kid. He's on the throne. Things are going pretty great. Now, when it's time for Dagobert to die, he decides that he needs to further split the kingdom. So he's got Austrasia with Sigebert, and he's also going to give him Aquitaine. And he's going to leave Neustria and Burgundy to his other son, Clovis. And at that point, Dagobert dies. This, by the way, is Clovis II. Shane just casually whipping the X-Acto blade out. Yeah, I mean, it's my hobby knife that I use for Gundam kits, and I've got Gundam stuff like right here by me, so it's easy and handy. Kiltabert. Now that sounds like a great Merovingian name. Kiltabert. Pontifex Kiltabert. Pontifex, by the way, the Latin term used for probably not preacher, but priest. One of these things is not like the other. Yeah, right. Dagobert, Sigebert, Clovis. So let's look at some stuff. This is the signet ring of Sigebert. Now we've got S and R for Sigebert Rex. So you also have to remember that this is in relief. So he's going here for a much more of a mohawk look. Perhaps this is the first documented case of a French mullet. I don't know. That does look like it goes down pretty far. That does look like it's perhaps oiled at the top. Business in the front, if you will, and party in the back. So maybe this is Sigebert Mulletus. Ancient duck lips. Yep, got the ancient duck lips. Again, the very prominent nasal ridge here. I don't know. But anyway, this is Sigebert. Here's Clovis, his brother. And we're getting a bit more abstract with the whole, what the devil is this supposed to be here? We've got just 3 dots instead of top lip, bottom lip, chin. Just going to go with 3 dots. And our hair is kind of like this random thing, and we've got just like this stick with it. Our ear is just a line with a dot in it. Okay. Our nose and our forehead are the same thing. Right? But this is a coin of Clovis. So we've got Sigebert and Clovis, and they're brothers, and they love each other, right? They don't love each other at all. They don't get along at all. And it doesn't help that one of them is, at this point, about 7, and the other one is 5. So not only do they really not like each other because they're children, they also don't really have any actual power. And this is when the mayors are really going to start stepping in. To the point that the mayors of the palace basically become the powers behind the throne. They had been really handy to have around. They had been really powerful. But at this point, with these kings that are getting younger, with the mayors being regents, this is really just going to be the mayors slowly taking over. And this is probably going to be one of the last generations of Merovingian kings that actually run things. There's actually a French term that basically means do nothing king that gets applied to the Merovingians around this point. Because they were figureheads. And the mayors figured out pretty fast that if you keep these little petty disputes going between the Merovingian kings, then the mayors can sit back and run the kingdom however they want to. So you give them an army and you tell them that their brother or their cousin had done something stupid, and you let them go run off and beat the crap out of each other while you and the other mayors sit in conference and run the country and line your pockets, right? Yeah, right, exactly. So the mayors are going to start taking over. So much so that we start getting their names recorded pretty frequently as the actual people that are running the country. There's a guy named Grimoald. Grimoald is actually a really fascinating individual. He was the mayor of the palace in Austrasia. So he was the mayor for Sigebert. Now, Sigebert was a child. And Grimoald goes to this kid and is like, hey, you don't have an heir. And Sigbert's like, okay. He's like, but you need an heir because all good kings have an heir. And he's like, oh yeah, because I'm a king. And he's like, you're a child. And so he convinces the king, Sigebert, to name Grimoald's son heir to the kingdom. So this particular kid is referred to as Childebert the Adopted. So Grimoald now has his son in line to be the next king of Austrasia. Now, Sigbert manages to live long enough to have a son of his own, and at that point he's like, okay, now I don't need your kid as the heir, so your kid's not the heir anymore, my kid is the heir. And Grimoald doesn't really care for that very much at all. So when Sigbert dies, Grimoald is going to rebel and declare his son the rightful king. And you're like, but what about the rightful king, Sigbert's son? He's like, oh, no, that kid's 7 years old. And he tonsures this kid, which is giving them the monk haircut, and he sends Sigbert's son to Ireland to live in a monastery. And he puts his own son on the throne. So there's a period of time in the early 650s, from 656 or so, where the guy that's the king of Austrasia is the son of the mayor of the palace. Now, the nobles don't like this at all, because this is a hijacking of the system, right? If they're not going to be able to be kings themselves, they especially don't want the mayors to prop their kids up as kings, because then that's just like too much. So the mayors are going to rebel against both Grimoald and his son Childebert, and they're going to end up having them both assassinated. So Grimoald has his little flash in the pan. Sigbert is dead. Grimoald gets assassinated, as does his son Childebert the Adopted, and they're going to bring back Sigbert's son, who's going to be Dagobert II, who looks like this. Yeah. Dang, you thought your mom gave bad haircuts as a kid, right? Imagine being given the tonsure and sent to Ireland to live out the rest of your life. Anyway, so we've got this new kid that's 7 years old on the throne. What's going on in the other part of the country where we have a young king as well? Where, well, there's this other guy who's the mayor of the palace in Neustria. Where's my chat? Nope, wrong button. Here we go. His name is Erchinoald. So Erchinoald is initially the the mayor of the palace in Neustria. But if we remember, Clovis had been left Neustria and Burgundy. So he has two of the kingdoms. And this is where things start getting really interesting, because Erchinoald is going to go to Clovis, who again is a child, and says, hey, I'm your favorite mayor, right? I'm your mayor here in Neustria. Wouldn't it be cool if I was also your mayor down in Burgundy? And Clovis is like, okay. Kid, right? Did somebody see the puppy? You want to come up here? You want to come and see me? You want to come up here? Come here. Hey, come here. You want to come over this way? Come and see me. Come over here. Come here. Come here. Come on. Come on. Come and see me. Hey, come on. Where are you going? Hey, here. Come here. The people would like to see you. They want to see you and say hello. Hey. See me. Come here. Come on. There we go. There's a puppy. There's a puppy. Hello. What you doing? Oh, you have stinky puppy breath. You need to brush your teeth. Yes. Oh, but you hate that. Oh my gosh, you hate your teeth being brushed so much. Oh, but you have such stinky puppy breath. Oh my goodness. Yes, we're going to have to brush your teeth. Oh gosh, yes. Scratch my ears. Oh my goodness. Oh goodness. Ear scratches. Oh yes. Scratch my forehead. Oh yes. You scratch your neck? Oh, that's a good one, huh? Oh, yes. Oh, my goodness gracious. So much scratching. Yeah. Oh, give me some sugars? Oh, thank you. You done now? You okay? That's the puppy. And she has plopped down behind me now. You doing okay back there? I can't reach you. You want to come over here? No? Okay. Anyway. That's the puppy. So, Erkinold manages to convince the king to merge the position of mayor of the palace Neustria with mayor of the palace Burgundy. And so now he is mayor of 2 palaces. That's a pretty big deal. Now, this becomes such a big deal that the nobles start demanding that they get a say-so in who gets to be mayor of the palace, right? So not only do the nobles ostensibly have to approve of the king, now they have to approve of the mayor of the palace. But let's remember that all the way back under Lothar II, that position had been made hereditary. So if it's hereditary, do you have to approve of me? Or do I just pass this to my son and you can't do anything about it? This is an interesting question, and the answer is nobody really knows. Nobody really knows. Now, this is going to change quite a bit when most of these people die and we get a guy named Ebroin. Now, this dude changes the game because Ebroin starts off being mayor of the palace in Neustria. And he is basically going to end up orchestrating one of the more interesting series of events that happens in this particular situation. So there is a kid named Lothar III. Now, this is an interesting situation. So here's Lothar. I don't know what's going on here with this mouth, but he looks literally slack-jawed here. Interesting guy, Lothar. So this is not Lothar II, this is Lothar III. Now, what's going to happen with all of this weird stuff? We're not going to be able to go through every single step here because it's very convoluted, but basically, Ebroin is going to command armies, defeat Dagobert II, going to play politics behind the scenes, and he's going to orchestrate a scenario where he, as mayor of the Palace of Neustria and Burgundy, is effectively going to create Lothar as king of all of the Franks. And because Ebroin, at that point, has a lot of influence over king of all of the Franks, he starts trying to make himself mayor of all of the palaces. Now, people see this coming, and they go, oh no, you can have a do-nothing king of the Franks, but we are not having a single united mayor of all of the palaces, because that's going to move towards something that is going to be really different than what we signed up for. But Ebroin is a pretty brilliant dude, and when Lothar III suddenly dies at 20, you would suspect that Eberwin would then go to the nobles, and they would have a ceremony, and then they would elevate the king and give him a coronation and blah, blah, blah. Nope, that's not what happens at all. When Lothar dies, Eberwin just goes, Theodoric, you're the king, and you are the king of all of the Franks. This is a bold move. No, sir, I don't like it. This, by the way, Theodoric III. I don't get it, but okay. I think we're moving actually backwards at this point, but whatever. Who disrupts my coronation? Yeah, exactly. Eberwin makes Theodoric the king of all of the Franks. By himself. And you go, Eberwin can't be that powerful, can he? I mean, he's just a guy. That's the mayor of the palace. This is a coin. And if we read this coin, E-B-R-I-N... wait. Yeah. Eberwin starts minting his own coins with his face on it. Now, that's a bold move. He's not king. He's mayor of the palace. But who's in control? If I'm minting coins and they've got my face on them, can he just do that? I mean, he can because he can, but he's not supposed to, because the coins are supposed to be issued in the name of the king, not the mayor of the palace. And he's not even mayor of all of the palaces yet. There's still a palace down in Aquitaine that he doesn't really run. But there's also one in Austrasia that he doesn't run. But it's a weird situation here with Mr. Eberwin. And Theodoric, of course, is just like a puppet, right? He is literally a do-nothing king. Shane, why do I feel like you'd be Eberwin? I would not be as heavy-handed as that guy. He overplayed his hand a little bit too fast. And when the coin stuff starts happening, the nobles in Burgundy are like, nope, it's time to go. He says, crappy drawings of the king's face on my coin, hold my beer. I found an even worse artist. Right? He does. You would think he would get a better artist to make his coins look better, but like, no, crappy Kate. So, no, Theodoric is still alive. The king is still alive. Eberwin just Littlefingered him, right? If we're going to continue with the Game of Thrones metaphor here, Eberwin Littlefingered the devil out of this situation, right? So the Burgundian nobles are going to decide to rebel. And they're going to be like, oh, no, we're not going to let this happen. We don't like any of this stuff going on. We're just going to rebel. Let's have a war. And they're going to find another one of the Merovingians, because at this point, like, I mean, how many Merovingians are there? And the answer is lots. But they're going to pick this guy named Kilderic. He's Kilderic II. And they're going to put him on the throne. And they're going to say, no. Theodoric is not king of all of the Franks. We have our own king. His name is Kilderic. And he's the real king. And we're going to pick a mayor for him. And it's not going to be Eberwin. And no. If you think that Eberwin had a bad artist, just wait for this one. What in the devil is that? This, by the way, is supposed to be Kilderic. Yes, like Kill Derek. Perhaps Kilderic, if you wanted to be a bit more emphatic on the first syllable there. So this is, wish.com coin, exactly. So this is supposed to be a full body profile of him. So here's his head up here. So eye, nose, mouth. This is supposed to be his hand right here holding an orb, and this is his body. So it's supposed to be a full body, or at least an upper torso portrait. Kill it with fire. Read Child Eric. That's pretty close. They kill his coin. Yeah, he doesn't have nice coins. Anyway, so we've got a bit of a mess here. And they're going to kick Ebroin out. And they're going to send him to a monastery. So, okay, whatever. So now we have a new mayor in all of the locations. We've got 2 kings. The nobles are pretty happy with this. And everybody feels like they're getting back to a normal situation. Note, I didn't kill Ebroin yet. He's not dead. He's just in a monastery. And suddenly, perhaps by design, we don't actually know why, but we do know that Kilderic gets assassinated. It's the stories in the primary sources say that he was killed by an affronted noble. So some noble takes offense at what Kilderic says or does or something like that, and a noble gives him the old stabby stab. So Kilderic of the crappy coin is now dead, and in the chaos that follows, Ebroin's like, it's time to go, and he sneaks out of the monastery, and he makes his way all the way back, and he meets back up with his king, Theodoric. And he goes, hey, buddy, remember when I was in charge and you were king of all of the Franks? And Theodoric's like, yeah, I remember that distinctly because that was like 2 years ago. And Ebroin's like, would you like to be king of all the Franks again? And Theodoric's like, heck yes, I'd like to be king of all the Franks again. How can you help me? He's like, I'm going to give you a list of people to exile, and I'm going to give you a list of people to kill. And Theodoric's like, exiling and killing, 2 of my favorite things. Let's do it. So basically, Theodoric puts Ebroin back in as his mayor, and then exiles a whole bunch of people that are nobles and kills a whole bunch of people that were Ebroin's opponents. So now Ebroin is back in charge, and he's like, hey, I'm back. This doesn't make people happy. They don't get very happy with him at all. And it only takes about a year for somebody to go, you know what the real problem is? The real problem isn't Theodoric. The real problem is Ebroin. And if we're not going to be able to get rid of him by sending him to a monastery, we're just going to stab him in the hallway of the palace. And they do. So Ebroin gets the assassin. And he's gone. Oh boy, here I go killing again, right? So now we have a king. But he needs somebody to be there for him. Because if we're just being honest, he had never really ruled the country in the first place. Because he was just a puppet for all of these other mayors. So what you gonna do if you've never run a country before? Well, you basically just start a war. And Theodoric is going to get in a fight with one of the mayors of the palace. A guy named Pepin of Herstal. Now, Pepin was the mayor of Austrasia. And Theodoric was ostensibly king of Austrasia. But when Theodoric decides to reclaim unilateral, power, and when Ebroin is finally killed, Pepin is like, all right, jerks, it's time. So he goes to the nobles of Austrasia and he's like, look, here's the deal. Austrasia has been frequently pushed around by the Neustrians and the Burgundians. Nobody really gives a crap about Aquitaine. They're just kind of down there doing their own thing. They're not really that big of a threat. But these Neustrians and these Burgundians have been jerking us around. And if you'll remember, the Austrasians were the ones that got mad at Lothar II. They're the ones that got mad at Dagobert I. And they're the ones that are just frequently going, we don't like this one king thing. So Pepin goes, look, you Austrasian nobles, you don't like the one king thing, but if you line up behind me, we can do something about this. So this is a big moment because in 687, Pepin is going to lead an army against Theodoric. And you're like, wait, now that's a mayor versus a king. Yeah, it is. And that shows you like the mayor position has now elevated itself to a bit more than just the thing. So Pepin is leading an army against the rightful king. By the way, the Pope hates this. The Pope did not approve of the mayors. The Pope approved of Theodoric. The church is all upset about this. We'll talk so much more about the church being upset in the next installment on the Merovingians. Let's just say that the Pope doesn't like them very much after this. So there's a big battle in 687, and Pepin's army is going to defeat the combined army of Neustria and Burgundy that were fighting for Theodoric. This is partially because Theodoric is not particularly an inspiring leader, also because he's a moron and he just doesn't understand battle or strategy or anything like that. So in the particular terms of the battle here, Pepin is going to force Theodoric to recognize that Pepin is the mayor of Neustria, Burgundy, and Austrasia. Because, you know, it's just time. It's time for a single mayor system. Now, you go, but he doesn't have Aquitaine. Just wait for it. Now, once he gets mayor status in all three of these things, he's going to decide, I think it's kind of time to start running things. And so he goes back to Theodoric and he goes, here's what you're going to do. You're going to make me a duke, and you're going to then make me a new title that's called Prince of the Franks. And you're going to give that to me. And Theodoric's like, but do I gotta? And he's like, yeah, because what you're also going to do is you're going to put all of the army under my control. And at that point, Pepin goes and ends the Civil War and secures all of the borders. And now we've got basically Pepin in charge of the country. And Theodoric is like, I'm still king. Yeah. Neo, what's up, Neo Realms? Good to see you, my friend. Hope you're having a good one. Pepin ends up basically second in command in name and first in command in power. Because he's got the army, and the nobles are actually going to line up behind this guy because he's got the army, which is something that the kings had never been able to do when they kept splitting the kingdom up between 4 different chunks. But when Pepin gets everything, he's like, consolidation is the way to go. You just put everybody together, and then if they cause trouble, you go kill them. And Pepin is good at killing. To quote Major Payne, killing is his business, and business is good. And this is a weird spot for the Merovingian kings, because let's just be real, at this point, they're not even pretending to be king anymore, except in name and the fact that they live at the big house, and they're back to having polygamous relationships and marrying their cousins and stuff. Pepin is Tywin. Pepin is totally a Tywin. He is absolutely a Tywin Lannister. The power behind the throne that becomes the throne himself, almost, right? Now, the story does continue, but Pepin is doing all of this stuff at the tail end of the 7th century, and because we're only talking about the 7th century, it is time to end the story for the night. So we'll come back to the Merovingians and see what happens once the mayors take over, but that's a story for another cycle. So that is where I would like to end tonight. You think you know? Maybe you do. Maybe you do. Maybe you know about the sons of Carolus and a new group called the Carolingians, and a guy named Pepin and another guy named Charles and another guy that's Charles, but he's the great Charles. And, you know, there's a lot of stuff that happens. What's up, David? Good to see you, man. The end. Spoiler alert. All that stuff happens. We're heading towards a really interesting stream. So the stuff that is happening tonight is actually really interesting stuff, but I do think that the stuff from the next cycle is probably the most interesting of the Merovingian story. Either the very, very beginning or the very end is pretty interesting. You know, you love the Carolingian at the holidays. Is this the Carol, like, the Carol, okay, Carolyn, okay, I'm going to go caroling. I see, I'm with you now. It took me a little while because I was like an engine, like the train that goes around the tree at the bottom. Yes, like caroling. I got there eventually. I was just slow on the uptake. Yeah, it's time. It's time to end this. Oh, I mean, I guess if anybody has questions about this material or questions just in general, or if anybody wants to redeem any channel points, now is a good time to do so. Otherwise, we can go look for somebody to raid. And I think I know where we're going to go if he is still on. And he is. So, anybody got anything else that they want to ask about? What's in the news? You have anything specific you want to talk about, Tuna? Iran. Yeah, I figured we might talk about Iran. Okay, so Iran is in a bit of a spicy mood right now. So here's what happened, right? There was, because unfortunately she has passed away now. There was a lady named Masa Amini, who was arrested in Iran by a group of people that are literally called the morality police. Now, you might go, that sounds horrible. Why would you need morality police? Well, let's remember that Iran is a very conservative Muslim country. They are particularly heavy in the theocracy realm. Technically, the head of state is a president, but in reality, the person that runs their country is Ayatollah Khomeini. Khomeini, just to not Khomeini, Khomeini. And this guy is a literal Muslim religious leader. So things are pretty tight around there. Now, so she was arrested. She was 22, by the way. So she was arrested, and they were going to send her to one of these things that they call re-education centers. But let's be real, re-education center means torture center, where they go beat the crap out of you or torment you or torture you in some way to make sure that you don't do these immoral things again. like, walk around public without a headscarf on, or speak ill of the government, or things that should be allowed within any modern Western, or not even Western, just modern, decent human society, right? So the morality police, it's not necessarily a concentration camp. It's just more, there are these all over Iran. There are multiple of them in the capital city of Tehran. It's basically a prison where they make you be very sorry for not doing exactly what they tell you, and they torture you or beat the crap out of you until you understand that you're not supposed to do that. So she got arrested and she got taken to this re-education center, and then 3 days later her family was notified that she was dead. So this has caused quite a bit of a stir, and rightfully so. I'm not trying to downplay this. This is absolutely something to get pissed off about, and I completely stand with the people that are protesting this kind of overreach by the government. They are absolutely in the right, and the government is absolutely in the wrong. So there's been a lot of protesting about this, and I do mean a lot, to the point where women were in the streets of Tehran burning their headscarves and hijabs as a sign of protest against this particular event. And the government has basically responded with force, not even attempting to address the actual concerns of the people, just literally with force, to the point that the protests have turned violent. People have died in the protests. The government has killed people. The police have beaten many people, arrested many people, hundreds of people. It's getting pretty bad. And what's crazy is, well, I mean, it's not crazy, but what is further is that the government has even gone so far as to tell Masa Amini's father that she died of natural causes. Right, she was in this detention center and she just died naturally, but they're not releasing her body. She died of she got really upset and she just had a heart attack, and this is natural. Like, they didn't kill her or beat her or anything like that, but they're not releasing her body. He hasn't been able to see her body. There's no death certificate. The hospital hasn't released anything. Today, yeah, so Christiana Manpour went over to Iran to try to meet with the government to talk about this, and the president walked out of the room when Amanpour refused to wear a headscarf in the interview. So, I mean, Iran is a very backwards country in its leadership. There are millions of people in Iran that are not the kind of people that their government is. Now, to be fair, their government stays in charge because there are people that do support the government to the point that they're willing to go kill their own citizens to support the government. So I'm not trying to excuse all of those people, but there is a substantial plurality, if not small majority, of people in Iran that are fed up with the way that their government is running the country. The issue is those people are traditionally very young, they're not in positions of power, and they don't have a lot of economic push behind them, because Iran is becoming a much more polarized world where the middle class is pretty much going away. They have kind of more of like a working, barely getting by class, and then the rich. And it's really, really messy over there right now. And it's not surprising to me that people are frustrated about this. I'm frustrated about this, but I'm not in Iran. I can only imagine that they're way more frustrated than I am. I find it ironic that Iran is exactly what fundamentalist Christians want America to be. Some people, yes. I don't think that most people that are pushing for a fundamentalist Christian government in America understand exactly what they want, and they don't understand that it would turn into an Iran if they had it. And I don't think that many of the people that are pushing for that would have a positive experience under that, because when you put a group like that in charge, they're going to just keep going further conservative. And if a lot of these people just don't like homosexuality in America, or a lot of people don't like, non-binary gender identity in America, what they don't understand is you put a government in charge that is that, and then they're going to come for your beer. And I know a lot of very conservative fundamentalist Christian people that would get really freaking upset if they couldn't get drunk on the weekend. So they don't understand what they're really asking for. And I don't think that they really would want it even if they got it. That would be a very much tiger by the tail situation. But the situation in Iran is very sad. It's pretty horrible, and I wish the people over there protesting the best of luck. They are protesting a violent, unfair, human rights abusing, really bad group of people that are in charge of that country, and I wish the best for the future generations of Iran, hoping that they can get rid of a lot of those people and rejoin an international community where a lot of the young people want to be. A lot of them want to be. So that's what's going on in Iran. You got a little bit of an opinion hat in there with what's in the news, but I feel like it was justified. So there's that. Anybody else got questions or news things or additional quotes or snippets or stuff like that? Yeah, absolutely. Always. As always. That's what I'm here for. I mean, if there are things that people don't understand and I can help you understand, that gives me a bonus. Forced viewer request topic vote now. It's not time for a vote. We had a vote Tuesday. So the next time we'll have a vote is about a month from now, actually. Another what's in the news? Yeah, sure, go for it. We can do that. Russian proto-draft. Okay, so here's what's going on in Russia with this weird draft thing. So earlier in the week, Putin pushed a bill through the Russian Duma that basically put in place a whole bunch of really big penalties for hindrance of the war effort or resisting aid to the government, which is really vague language. But essentially what they're trying to do here is they're going to say if you're trying to dodge the draft, or if you're not actively participating in supporting the war effort, you're going to go to jail. And they put the jail sentence on this at 15 years, right? And they did this the day before Putin decided to pass kind of a unilateral authorization to remobilize 300,000 Russian troops. Now, this is not a draft. So these are not people that are being conscripted off the bat. What this is doing is reactivating veterans, so people that have existing military experience that have been retired, and this is basically turning reserve individuals into full-out soldiers full-time. So this is not necessarily a full-out conscription in the sense that he's just picking random people and forcing them into the military, but this is a conscription in that none of those people had signed up to be in the permanent military. So this activation movement is designed at basically creating enough soldiers to fill the gaps of those that have been lost in Ukraine. Russia has pretty cushy jails. I bet Siberia is nice in the fall. I probably would think that Siberia is pretty bad year-round if you're stuck there. I wouldn't mind going to visit. There's actually some weird beauty about Siberia that I've always found kind of interesting. I don't think I'd want to live there, though. It gets really cold there. And I don't think my wife would appreciate that at all. So anyway, this 300,000 troop thing is partially a stunt, but it's also something that I feel like might end up being a trap for Putin. Now, I should note here that I'm speculating, but before I get into speculation, let me give you some actual pieces of data here that sort of are going to lay the foundation of my speculation. Russia has lost around 7,000 armored vehicles in Ukraine, including almost 1,700 tanks. So these are armored personnel carriers, tanks, armored military mobile weapons battery things, so like the big trucks that have the missiles on the back of them. They have lost billions of dollars worth of war materials, things like bombs, missiles, machine guns, ammunition, grenades, rocket-propelled shoulder missile grenades, because they're falling apart at the seams inside of Ukraine. And so much so that the Ukrainian military today even posted a Twitter, for this new thing that they're calling the Russian Lend-Lease program, where... Are you not entertained? What's up, Aristotle? Good to see you, my friend. I was hoping that we would finish up in time to raid you. But we got into some conversation, and I never want to drop my friends off in the middle of a discussion. Good to see you, man. If you all are not already following Aristotle, you got to give this guy a follow. He is a brilliant dude, and I say that meaning being literal. I don't say that about people just to blow smoke up their butt. He's a smart guy. He knows philosophy a lot, and he's going to take all of your bullcrap questions and treat them with an air of honest respect, and you might learn something even if you're goofing off. Welcome, Matty Holmes. Bum ba dum. Dun 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 dun. So, Matty, welcome. Eris, good to see you. Adam Fighter, welcome. Dun dun dun. Dun dun. Ace and Deuce, welcome. I've seen you around Aristotle's chat. Good to see you in here, and welcome. Bum-ba-dum. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, 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 dun. Adam Fighter, thank you so much for that follow, and welcome to the adventure. For those of you that don't know who I am, hello. My name is Shane. I teach history and sociology in college. On my stream, we call ourselves Adventures in History. We talk about historical stuff. We make fun of it, and we make fun out of it, because history doesn't have to be boring and stupid or dumb or taught by a coach in the United States that doesn't really give a crap about history at all. It's really just the story of people and the stupid decisions that they make and the good decisions that they fall into. And tonight we were talking about a group of people called the Merovingians, who were a group of reformed barbarians that basically took over in France after the fall of the Western Roman Empire. So these are cool people. Oh, you're just into archaeology. Yeah, I do that on the side as well. So you're in good company, Maddie. Have you been on any digs? Where have you been? Yeah, these are Lumpy's people, but like before Lumpy's people came to Canada. So specifically, we were talking about how the Merovingians fared in the 7th century. So we're doing history in chronological order here on Thursdays in Adventures in History. And we started all the way back when humans became humans and we developed these things. And now we are in the 7th century of the current era. And we do things geographically in phases. So this whole phase is about the 7th century, and we move from easternmost to westernmost, and right now we're moving our way across Europe. So last stream we talked about, this stream we talked about the Byzantines. Last stream we were talking about the Byzantines and how they had to reorganize after the rise of the Caliphate. The stream before that we were talking about the rise of the Rashidun Caliphate and then the transition over to the Umayyad Caliphate. Before that, we talked about the beliefs of Islam. Then we were talking about Central Asia and India. We were talking about Tibet. We were talking about China. We were talking about Korea. We were talking about Japan. So we talk about all sorts of history. Next week, if you come on Thursday, we're going to be talking about the Visigoths over here in Spain. And then the week after that, we're going to take a trip over here to the Americas and see what's going on in the 7th century over there. So if that sounds fascinating and interesting, or even, I don't know, this guy looks like he can talk and he sounds like he's not a butthole, click the follow button, come on back around. We'll have a good time here. You did a dig on an Etruscan field school. That's awesome. Dude, I would love to go do Etruscan digs. I've been to Italy several times. I've never been on a dig in Italy. That'd be really, really cool, though, and I do quite like the Etruscans. Have you ever been to Cerveteri, just north of Rome? Really big Etruscan necropolis with lots of really cool tumuli. One of my favorite places. Yeah, Poggio Civita. I've never been all the way up that way. I would love to. The time that I was closest, I was with my in-laws, and I didn't necessarily want to drag them to all of the weird off the road places that I wanted to go. So I compromised, and we did some stuff, and then we did we're going to go do wine tasting, So there we go. Some emergency stuff out of Phoenix, cool, and a few years of voluntary lab work in archaeology lab. Oh, that's really cool. In Merlot, yeah, I know where that is. Not the Shoebox Museum, but I know where Merlot is. Yeah, so cool. So I've been on some stuff over in Jordan, and I've done some field survey stuff in Turkey. 2 survey trips over here in Turkey, and I've been to Greece. And I've been to Italy a couple of times. I've been to Germany. Anyway, I've been around. I like this stuff, though. Shoebox Size Museum in Merlot, LOL. You come back and you read Lumpy's People. We were talking about the French Lumpy. I was looking around me just to see if I had ancient something that I could show. Look, ancient something. Hold on just a second. I'll go get this little guy right there. And we'll have a moment. Whee! So this little guy, let me go to full screen here. Do I have a full screen on this? No, I don't. Oh, I need a full screen on this. This little guy is a little Toltec household god from Mexico. Pretty neat little guy. Just a little household deity. There are, probably a bajillion of these all over the place. This one just came into my possession after an archaeologist friend of mine. Yeah. It's actually that old. This, it's made out of rock. It's real. So, a couple thousand years old, probably. Maybe a little bit less. 1700, we could say 1800, pretty so. Yeah, it does look like an alien. It's a little alien household deity. Hello, take me to your leader. Pretty neat little guy, though. So, I've got some other stuff that's around. I've got a whole bunch of, Native American points and Anyway, I need to do an archaeology stream where I just like show off stuff, but anyway, I am not the real life Indiana Jones. I don't steal things. I've never been shot at by Nazis, and I've never been exposed to the Ark of the Covenant. It's 13.6 billion years old. I know Melissa in Denial is a streamer in TKF because I'm a part of them as well. Well, where's my chat? So if you all don't know, I am part of the Knowledge Fellowship. So you can read that there. Melissa in Denial is an Egyptologist that occasionally plays games, occasionally does some talking stuff. I've been in her chat. I tend to lurk a lot. It takes me a while to sort of warm up to people and start talking. But I've been in her chat a few times and just lurked. Really interesting streamer. So I did survive that nuclear blast in a fridge one time, though. We don't talk about that movie. I've never been shot at by Nazis, but I have had Jordanian border police point an AK-47 at me. Actually, multiple AK-47s. So I don't know if that counts, but they never actually shot at me. So there we go. Anyway, so we were actually wrapping up, and we were talking about. I have some point redemptions, specifically what's in the news point redemptions, and we talked about the situation going on in Iran with the protests over there, and we were in the process of talking about the situation in Russia where Putin has basically activated 300,000 of these troops, and like who these troops are and what they're actually supposed to be and what's going on with that. So, is that a tam? No. So that wasn't a tam. So this is it's a little household deity. Basically, it's just a rock that's carved like a little spirit that you would keep in your house to kind of protect your family. But no, it's not a little drum. A tam is a drum, or a gong sometimes, like a. Anyway, so basically, what we were saying. Do you think we were closer to midnight than we've ever been before? Oh, you mean like on the nuclear clock? No. I know that Putin has threatened to use nuclear weapons. I don't think that he is beyond using nuclear weapons. Okay, speculation time. Maybe I should put on the opinion hat before I even go. So we have hat gear, or headgear. So when I wear the opinion hat, which makes me look very opinionated, you should understand that I am not talking factually or historically, just that I'm speaking with my opinion. If I were to speculate on a likely nuclear event with Putin, my thought would be that it would probably be a very small, low-yield nuclear weapon that would target somewhere that's not a direct attack on a major city, but somewhere that would cause a lot of collateral damage, because Putin doesn't want to destroy Kherson or Kharkiv or even Kiev. He wants to take those cities over. He doesn't want to blow them up. If he dropped a nuke on those cities, he wouldn't be able to use them. And he doesn't want that to happen. And he also doesn't want to ruin cropland. So if he found a out-of-the-way target that was a smaller city that had a compact population that didn't necessarily have a lot of infrastructure built there, using a low-yield nuclear device like a suitcase bomb or a dirty bomb or something like that to create a lot of panic and terror would not be outside of his purview. I don't think that he wants to fly over and drop some 500 kiloton or megaton bomb or something like that. Because, again, if he does, he's not going to be able to benefit from that either, right? He doesn't want to blow up Kiev because Kiev has too much stuff there that he wants. Putin's just a jerk, right? He is unhinged. He has small penis syndrome. He's trying to be the Russian judo champion that he thinks that he still is in his heart. And just to be honest, the dude is capable of doing a lot of stuff that I didn't think that he was actually capable of previously. What's up, Blue? At this point, we're done with the main chat. We're just kind of chatting after the main chat. You have a plan to go through history, starting with the Neolithic man and going forward, learning all the creative pursuit arts. That's really cool. To be more clear, I mean like going from tom-toms to cave paintings and stone carvings. Ace and Deuce, let me direct you to a friend of the channel, Cave Geek Art. Cave Geek is an artist that uses all primitive techniques and almost completely primitive tools on his channel to do stuff with like brain tanned buckskin using natural pigments and bone tools and stuff like that. He also knows a heck of a lot of survival techniques. I think he might be somebody that you'd be really interested in talking with. Also, friend in the chat, a guy named Big Tuna Neil, has recently been studying a lot about especially ancient pigments, things like cave paintings, really, really old paintings and glazes on pottery. Might also be somebody that you want to talk to. So hit these people up, and I feel like they might be somebody that can give you some help. Are we talking about Putin possibly dropping nukes on Ukraine? Yes. Does he even have viable weapons like that? Yes. So no chance of targeting NATO. I don't think that he's going to... Well, okay. So I didn't think that he was actually going to invade Ukraine. I think that he didn't even want to invade Ukraine. I think that he got to the point where he had called so much of their bluff that he had to invade Ukraine. So I can't say anymore that he won't do that. I would say that the chance of him directly targeting NATO is very, very, very low. Everything is crazy. Why Ukraine? There are more valuable targets. Yeah, Foggage. Also, hey, Foggage. And hey, Blue. I said Blue, but I don't know if I said hello. So hello. The problem with Putin specifically in Ukraine is that Ukraine was humiliating to Russia at the end of the Cold War. They were the biggest country that was able to stand up to Russia when the Soviet Union fell apart. And they humiliated Russia for several years by holding onto their nuclear weapons and refusing to allow them to use things like their Black Sea ports. And Putin has a chip on his shoulder about the entire collapse of the Soviet Union because he wanted to be the next Gorbachev or Yeltsin or whomever. Well, not Yeltsin, because Yeltsin actually got elected. He wanted to be the next Stalin. And he was banking on the Soviet Union holding together, and when it fell apart, he had to work his way up to get to where he is now, and he hates Ukraine for humiliating Russia. He also just doesn't think that they exist. He's targeting countries that don't have a NATO UN post. Exactly. That's always the tough thing when you're dealing with unhinged people. It's hard to say, well, exactly, Aristotle, exactly. He's basically trying to get the band back together. Yeah, he would love to put together the Soviet Union again. So happy about the title. Oh, single mayor system? Yeah, so I always have a pun as the title. So on Tuesday, we're doing a viewer request, or last Tuesday, the day before yesterday, we were doing a viewer request stream on Nelson Mandela, who's part of he was born into a group of people called the Timbu that are part of the larger Xhosa culture. And the title was Xhosa to the Heart. Like, Xhosa to the Heart. Because I like old music. I think we're talking about the situation. Yes, they are no doubt getting my follow. I plan on doing the same thing. Okay, cool. Yeah. So about this, awesome. I'm good you're excited about that. I don't think he wanted all. No. He did not. I don't think he wants. He doesn't want any of the heat. He just thought that he was going to roll into Ukraine and take it. You don't think Russia is going to start blowing up things with nukes? If he did drop nukes, NATO is going to start arming things up into Ukraine's team. I don't think anybody wants to go into Russia and drop a nuke. I don't think anybody wants to roll into Russia and drop a nuke. I think right now the former KGB agent in him is just embarrassed and he's furious at being outplayed by Zelensky. Yes, he is, very much. I think they might consider a low-yield tactical nuke. Yes, exactly. Or destroy the nuclear plant. Yeah, like the one at Zaporizhia. I doubt they would try to dust off the high-yield nukes. Right. If they did that, they risk mutually assured destruction. Correct. I'm with you, Junk. Also, hey, Junk. Yeah, so I've caught up with chat now. Yeah, I think all of that makes sense, and I think all of that is pretty accurate. Putin is a mess right now. He really thought that he would be able to take Kiev in 3 days. Like, he really, really did. And the fact that he thought that is evidence of him being unhinged. Also, you need to think where the nuclear fallout would be. Right. So, Blue, I don't know if you came in literally right when we were talking about that, but we had sort of like... I had set a lot of that stuff up where, like, he doesn't want to blow stuff up. He doesn't want to destroy a whole bunch of farmland because he needs it, et cetera, et cetera. So, I think you maybe came in, like, right in the middle of that conversation, so... Supposedly they are reissuing most since. Oh my gosh, yeah. If they're dragging stuff back up from the late 70s and early 80s, it's a wreck over there. The stuff that they bought from North Korea was stuff that they sold to North Korea in the 80s. I'm sure it has nothing to do with him surrounding himself with yes men. Right, Blue. So, like, my entire hypothesis, and Junk, I don't know if you're here either, was it's likely to be like a suitcase nuke or a dirty bomb if he were to use anything nuclear. Yeah. Southwest of Ireland is actually the safest place in nuclear apocalypse. Hey, well, there we go. Hey, that's my country, the southwest of well, not necessarily south and west. It's more like south and central, but like the Shannon River Valley, that's my family's ancient homeland, right? So maybe I'll just go back home to the shores of Erie. Anyway, people who underestimate the power of this corrupt... Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. When you don't hear anything but yes, and you don't hear anything to question what you say, you just end up making the prequels. I'm sorry, what? I went there. Not saying that the prequels are the same as Putin or, other despotic rulers in the last 4 or 5 years. So, did we talk about corruption already? Yeah, like how corrupt Russia is. It's super duper corrupt. Anyway, all right. Anybody else want to do any point redemptions or got any specific questions? Prevailing winds are southwesterly, so unless someone nukes the Atlantic, it should be the safest place to be. Well, there we go. There you go. Get on with it. Well, actually, we're done with the stream part, Foggage. We're done with the Merovingians. We've already been all the way through that stuff. Slava Ukraine. If you want an easy way to Russian corruptions, read up on the Sochi Olympics. Oh yeah, I know. Oh my gosh. What's in the news again about what, Vipers? You got to give me something specific, or just like what in general, or are we just? How long is Liz Truss for the political world? That's more of an opinion hat. Liz Truss has at least until the next elections. I don't think the conservatives are going to choose somebody new so quickly. When is the next required election? I can't remember. It's like 2024 or 25. That they're required. 24, yeah. So 24. She has at least until then. There's no way they would change the PM again after this. The change with Boris was utterly humiliating. They do not want to have a vote right now at all. They do not want to have a vote right now. They would lose so many seats and the prime minister. They'll ride out with truss until at least 24. You think she may be ousted way before that? I don't think so. I know that the mess with the heating bills and the electricity bills is going to be really bad, and I know that this is going to be a really, really big pinch on a lot of people, but the conservatives aren't going to let that ride. Okay. The opinion hat has been resummoned. 3 spooky movies that we should watch this holiday season. Well, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look these up on IMDb so that I can share their pages so that you can go straight to them. So give me just a second and I'll... All right, because I want to refer to specific ones. So the first one is this one, which is called Let the Right One In. But this is a movie that was remade in America. It was originally Swedish, and the American one is okay, but the cinematography in the original Swedish version is just better. You want to watch that one. Just do it. It's a... I don't want to give it away, but it's basically a... it's a vampire movie. I'll just say that. It's a vampire movie. Okay. Hold on a second. That's not what I wanted it to be. Okay, so this one's a bit of a deep cut. But it's a weirdo, and it's interesting. It's called Eyes Without a Face. And it's an old French movie from the 60s. And it's real creepy. It's real creepy. There's a car accident, and stuff spins out of control from that point. And I'll just leave it at that. And then finally, one that I think is kind of a sleeper horror movie that I don't think gets enough attention is this movie that's called Sunshine. And it starts off to be a really decent sci-fi movie, and then it just goes really weird. Really weird. So, Sunshine is a creepy movie. It doesn't get a lot of love. It doesn't get a lot of attention. It's got a lot of big-name people, though, in it. It's got Cillian Murphy. It's got Chris Evans. I mean, it's got, I don't know if you all know who people in Japanese movies are, but it's got Hiroyuki Sanada in it. It's a good movie. It's a good one. So, all right, now let me catch up with chat because I've lost stuff here. Rank 3 things: Ohio, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, best history. That's a tough one. That's really tough. I'm going to have to put Ohio first. And I'm going to do that because I think it has the largest concentration of history across the entire longitudinal line of American history, starting all the way back with like Neolithic Americans. That's where Serpent Mound is. That's where the Adena Hopewell culture grew up. Ohio would probably be number 1. Pennsylvania would normally be number 3, but recently there have been some really, really interesting archaeological developments in Pennsylvania dealing with Native American stuff, including some rock shelters that have been investigated that might be potentially pushing the migration patterns of humans back like maybe even 10,000 years in North America. I do like Kentucky, though. There's a lot of really cool caves in Kentucky that have a lot of history that go way, way, way back. So had the recent developments in Pennsylvania not been as interesting as they are, it would have been Ohio, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, but I'm going to have to put it Ohio, Pennsylvania, Kentucky. But that's a great one. I like that one a lot. That's a good question. All right. Truss comes off as a cross between Petunia Dursley and Dolores Umbridge. That's a good one. That's a good one. Who is Truss? So Liz Truss, she's the new Prime Minister of the UK. Jack Frost is a Halloween movie or Christmas movie? Christmas movie. It's a Christmas movie. Aristotle does not get to watch movies before he watches EEAAO. You love watching D&D stuff? Love Let the Right One In. It's a good one. Now, the American remake of it is also good. But the original version is, I think, better. Latin den Rata Coma In. Yeah, that's it. There's a Christmas movie called Jack Frost and a Halloween horror movie called Jack Frost. Yes. It's not about choosing who you invite to your life. Yeah, that's a good one, Junk. That's a great way of putting it. It's not a spoiler for being a vampire movie. It was marketed that way. Okay, cool. Thank you, Maddie. I appreciate that. Truss has no intention of being reelected. She's just doing as much damage for her paymasters as she can before the Conservatives are out on their ear. I agree, but that's why they're not going to get rid of her. They're going to use her as basically the whipping boy for the next couple of years to get all of their junk pushed through, and then they're going to lose the next election. But there we go. You need to rewatch that. Is that Eyes Without a Face? Perhaps so. As an American, I recognize the state of Britain's right to have its leader. There we go. Eyes Without a Face, in my opinion, really establishes Shane as a person of good taste. Well, thank you. Well, thank you. As someone who lives in Hong Kong, get back here, we need help. Yeah, there we go. And you never heard of Sunshine? Sunshine is very trippy. You need to watch Everything Everywhere All at Once. Never hang out with the Kantians because I'm getting ready to sharpen my axe. Everything Everywhere All at Once is really good. And if that's what EEAAO is, I do say that you should watch Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's a good movie. Oh God, Sunshine, that movie was so stupid you couldn't stand it. Really? Really? That's interesting. Sunshine also has the soundtrack song that is in every trailer that doesn't have the Transformers Wong noise. Ohio has Toledo War. Yes, Ohio, we have the history. Kansas, LOL. Did anyone watch the new Cyberpunk anime? I did not. Lumpy's got to be off. Good to see you, Lumpy. Hope you have a good one. Kansas has that huge urban center just discovered around Wichita. I'm skeptical of that one, Maddie. I don't know if that's being interpreted correctly. I would love to go look at it. I don't think that it's still uncovered in the large port, but I would like to go look at that for myself. I'm not disputing that it is a big urban center. I'm mostly disputing exactly how dense it was, and I'm disputing some of the dating of that. You love the first 2/3 of Sunshine once it switched to a zombie horror. Oh, there we go, Kyle. Just spoil the whole thing. I thought it was good. I thought it was good all the way through. I thought it was pretty good. I still kind of like it. No, that is Warm Bodies. The zombie that falls in love. That movie that has... Oh, crud. He was in Skins, and he played Beast in the remake movies. What's the kid's name? Oh, my gosh. And it's got that other guy that was an extra on The Daily Show. Rob Guidry. Had Rob Guidry in it. By the way, spoiler alert, and this isn't really a spoiler alert, but if you watch Warm Bodies, it's basically Romeo and Juliet. The whole movie is just Romeo and Juliet. Have you seen The Autopsy of Jane Doe? I've heard of that movie. I have not seen that movie. All right, so I finished 30-something minutes ago, and I thought, oh, we'll raid and we'll be off. And then we had good conversation, so I just kept going. But it is time to go, because I'm kind of tired and my voice is kind of tired. So we're gonna go. We're gonna go see who we can raid. We're gonna drop the kids off at somebody else's stream, and the guy that I wanted to raid ended up here, and the backup raid guy is now off off stream. So we're gonna go find somebody else to go raid. Who are we gonna go raid? Let's go raid Chris. We're gonna go raid Chris Keiko Art. This guy's a really interesting artist. He can draw with both hands, which freaks me out because he'll be drawing on the same thing with two hands, and it's really crazy. But he's a really cool artist. He's a good streamer. He's got a really positive vibe in his channel. So we're gonna go raid Chris Keiko. He's a cool dude. Send him some love. Yell adventure when we get there. If you have those wonderful adventure hat emotes, throw that stuff in the chat too. Yeah, so the next time you'll see me for certain is next Thursday. We'll be doing the Visigoths in Spain. Now, I hope that I can get some Gundam stuff in over the weekend, and there is a minor chance that I'll be able to get my crap together enough to have a catch-up viewer request stream on Tuesday. Don't bet on that. I've got so much work next week, it's going to be scary. I'm already kind of scared about it anyway. So let's go raid Chris. Thank you all very much. Have a great night. Love you guys. Take it easy. Peace.